The stranger's horse kicked up dust devils as it thundered down the main street of Fort Yuma, Arizona territory, and Zelda Harrington felt her breath catch in her throat before she could stop herself. She stood outside the mercantile, her arms full of flour sacks, watching this newcomer approach with the kind of confidence that came from years in the saddle. The year was 1878, and men like him passed through all the time, but something about the way he sat his horse made her pause. He dismounted in one fluid motion outside the saloon, tying his black stallion to the hitching post with practiced ease. When he turned, Zelda got her first good look at his face. Square jaw, weathered tan, eyes the color of creek water after spring rain. He caught her staring and tipped his hat, a slow smile spreading across his face that made her suddenly aware of the Arizona heat in a way that had nothing to do with the sun. "Afternoon, miss," he called out, his voice carrying across the dusty street. Zelda adjusted her grip on the flour sacks and lifted her chin. "Afternoon," she replied coolly, though her heart hammered against her ribs. She was 22 years old and had lived in Fort Yuma her entire life. She knew better than to let some handsome drifter turn her head. "Name's Logan Wade," he said, walking toward her with an easy stride. "Just rode in from Tucson. Heard there might be work around here." "Work?" Zelda raised an eyebrow. "What kind of work would that be? Breaking horses, mostly. Ranch work if needed." His eyes never left hers, and she felt a flush creep up her neck. "But I have to admit, the work is not the only reason I came to Fort Yuma." "Is that so?" She shifted the flour sacks again, more to give her hands something to do than out of necessity. "I heard there was a woman here who could outride, outshoot, and outrope any man in the territory," Logan said, his smile widening. "Thought I might see if the rumors were true." Zelda felt her spine straighten with pride despite herself. It was true that she had grown up doing ranch work alongside her father before he passed 3 years ago. Her mother had died when she was just a girl, and her father had raised her to be tough, capable, and independent. Now, she ran their small ranch just outside of town with the help of 2 hired hands, and she had never backed down from a challenge in her life. "The rumors might have some truth to them," she admitted, "but I don't perform for strangers who ride into town looking for entertainment." "I'm not looking for entertainment, Miss Harrington," Logan said, and the fact that he already knew her name should have alarmed her, but instead it sent a thrill through her chest. "I'm looking to meet someone who might be my equal." "Your equal?" Zelda laughed, the sound sharp and clear in the afternoon air. "That's quite an assumption, Mr. Wade. What makes you think you're anywhere near my level?" "Only one way to find out," he replied, his eyes gleaming with challenge. "Race you for it." The words hung in the air between them. Around them, the town seemed to grow quieter as people stopped their business to watch this exchange. Zelda knew that half the town would be talking about this by supper time, but she found she did not care. This man had ridden into Fort Yuma with the specific intention of meeting her, of challenging her, and something about that boldness appealed to her in a way she had not expected. "Race me for what, exactly?" she asked, setting the flour sacks down on the mercantile porch. "For the chance to court you," Logan said, and his voice had lost its teasing edge. He was serious now, his gaze intense and unwavering. "If I win, you give me a chance to prove I'm worthy of your time. If you win, I'll leave Fort Yuma and you'll never see me again." Zelda's mind raced. It was an outrageous proposition, the kind of thing that would have her neighbors gossiping for months. But it was also exactly the kind of direct, honest challenge she respected. She had spent years turning down marriage proposals from men who wanted a wife to cook and clean and look pretty, men who saw her skills as something to be tamed rather than admired. Logan Wade was offering her something different, whether he knew it or not. He was offering her respect. "Tomorrow morning," she said, making her decision. "Sunrise. We race from the town limits to the old cottonwood tree by the river bend and back. First one to cross the finish line wins." "Deal," Logan said immediately, extending his hand. Zelda took it, feeling the calluses on his palm that matched her own. His grip was firm but not crushing, confident but not arrogant. When their hands touched, she felt that spark again, stronger this time, and from the way his eyes widened slightly, she knew he felt it too. "Until tomorrow, then, Miss Harrington," he said, releasing her hand slowly. "Until tomorrow, Mr. Wade," she replied, picking up her flour sacks again. She walked away without looking back, but she could feel his gaze following her all the way down the street. That evening, Zelda's ranch hands, Miguel and Joseph, were full of questions when she told them about the race. Miguel, a weathered Mexican man in his 50s who had worked for her father, shook his head in disbelief. "You agreed to what?" he asked, leaning against the barn door. "Zelda, you do not even know this man." "That's the point," Zelda said, checking her horse Juniper's shoes in preparation for the morning race. "If he wins, I'll get to know him. If I win, he leaves town and life goes on as usual." "And what if you want to lose?" Joseph asked quietly. He was younger, maybe 25, and had always been perceptive about her feelings. Zelda paused in her work, Juniper's hoof resting on her knee. "I never want to lose," she said firmly. But even as she spoke the words, she wondered if they were entirely true. There had been something in Logan Wade's eyes when he looked at her, something that made her think he saw her as she truly was, not as some curiosity or challenge to be conquered, but as an equal. And that was something she had been searching for without even realizing it. She finished checking Juniper's shoes and straightened up, patting the mare's flank. Juniper was a fast, reliable horse, part quarter horse and part Mustang, with the endurance to run all day if needed. Zelda had raised her from a foal and trusted her completely. "Get some rest," Miguel advised. "You will need it to beat this cowboy tomorrow." Zelda smiled at him gratefully and headed toward the small ranch house where she lived alone. Inside, she lit a lamp and moved through the familiar space, her mind churning with thoughts of the coming race. She made herself supper, some beans and cornbread, but she barely tasted it. When she finally climbed into bed, she lay awake for a long time, staring at the ceiling and wondering what had possessed her to agree to such a thing. But deep down, she knew. She had agreed because Logan Wade had offered her something no other man had, a contest of skill where the prize was not land or money or status, but simply the chance for two equals to know each other better. And whether she won or lost tomorrow, at least she would know she had been seen for who she truly was. Dawn broke clear and beautiful over Fort Yuma, the sky painted in shades of pink and gold. Zelda arrived at the town limits to find a crowd already gathered, word of the race having spread through the small community like wildfire. Logan was there waiting, standing beside his black stallion, looking as calm and collected as if he was about to go for a leisurely ride. "Morning, Miss Harrington," he greeted her, his eyes bright with anticipation. "Morning, Mr. Wade," she replied, guiding Juniper into position beside him. She had dressed practically for the race in split riding skirts and a simple cotton blouse, her dark brown hair braided and pinned up beneath her hat. The town's mayor, a portly man named Henderson, stepped forward to officiate. "The rules are simple," he announced to the crowd. "Straight shot to the cottonwood at the river bend, then back here. No interference between riders, and the first one across this line wins. Everyone clear, clear," Logan and Zelda said in unison. "On my count then," Henderson said, pulling out his pocket watch. 3, 2, 1, go." Zelda dug her heels into Juniper's sides, and the mare sprang forward like a released arrow. Beside her, Logan's stallion matched their pace stride for stride. The crowd's cheers faded behind them as they thundered out of town, hooves pounding against the hard-packed earth. The morning air was cool on Zelda's face as she leaned forward in the saddle, urging Juniper faster. She could hear Logan beside her, could sense the stallion's powerful muscles working, but she kept her focus on the path ahead. The river bend was about 3 miles out, and she knew every rock and rut in the road. They raced side by side for the first mile, neither gaining ground on the other. Zelda felt her competitive spirit flare to life, that fierce joy that came from pushing herself to the limit. She risked a glance at Logan and found him grinning at her, clearly enjoying himself just as much. "You're good," he called out over the thunder of hooves. "I told you the rumors were true," she shouted back. As they approached a slight curve in the road, Zelda saw her chance. She knew that the inside track would save precious seconds, and she guided Juniper smoothly into the turn. For a moment, she pulled ahead, and her heart soared with triumph. But Logan was no amateur. He adjusted his course immediately, and his stallion's longer legs ate up the distance. By the time they straightened out, they were neck and neck again. The cottonwood tree appeared in the distance, its leaves shimmering in the early morning light. Zelda prepared for the turn around it, calculating her approach. They would both have to slow down to make the sharp turn without injury to their horses, and that moment would likely decide the race. She reached the tree first by half a length and swung Juniper around in a tight arc, the mare's hooves scrabbling for purchase. Logan followed a second later, and for a moment, Zelda thought she had won. But as they started the return journey, the stallion's greater speed began to tell. Slowly, inexorably, Logan pulled alongside her. Zelda leaned lower over Juniper's neck, whispering encouragement to the mare. "Come on, girl, just a little more. You can do this." Juniper responded with everything she had, but Zelda could feel the horse beginning to tire. They had run hard on the way out, and the return journey was taking its toll. Logan's stallion, larger and stronger, seemed to have more reserves. He edged ahead, inch by painful inch. The town came into view, the crowd visible as a mass of people lining the street. Zelda made one final desperate push, asking Juniper for everything the mare had left. For a breathless moment, they pulled even with Logan again. She could see the finish line now, could see Mayor Henderson standing there with his hand raised. They crossed the line together in a blur of speed and dust, so close that Zelda could not tell who had won. She pulled Juniper to a stop and turned to see Logan doing the same. They sat there on their heaving horses, both breathing hard, staring at each other. "Mayor Henderson," Logan called out, never taking his eyes off Zelda. "Who won?" The crowd had gone silent, everyone waiting for the verdict. Henderson approached, looking uncomfortable. "Well now," he said, scratching his head. "That's the thing, I couldn't rightly say. You both crossed at the exact same moment far as I could tell." "A tie," Zelda said, surprised. "Appears so," Henderson confirmed. "Never seen anything like it in all my years." "You're both incredibly skilled riders." Zelda looked at Logan, seeing her own confusion mirrored in his face. They had not anticipated this outcome. The terms of the race had been clear, win or lose, but what happened in the event of a tie? "I suppose that means neither of us won," Logan said slowly, dismounting. He walked over to Zelda and offered his hand to help her down, which she accepted. Her legs felt unsteady beneath her after the hard ride, and she was grateful for his steadying presence. "So the original agreement is void." "I suppose it is," Zelda agreed, though she felt a strange disappointment at the thought. Now Logan could leave town with his pride intact, and she would never have to give him a chance. Except she realized with a start that she wanted to give him a chance. The race had shown her that he was indeed her equal in skill and determination. And the way he had grinned at her during the ride, the pure joy he had taken in the competition, told her that he understood her in a way few people did. "Miss Harrington," Logan said, his voice serious now, "I came to Fort Yuma specifically to meet you. Not because I wanted to win some contest or prove anything to the town. I came because I heard about a woman who was strong and independent and afraid of nothing. A woman who carved out her own path in this world. And after racing with you this morning, I know that everything I heard was true. So I am going to ask you straight out, with no games or bets. Would you allow me to court you? Not because I won, but because I think we could be something remarkable together." The crowd had gathered around them now, everyone straining to hear. Zelda was aware of dozens of eyes on her, waiting for her response. But when she looked at Logan, everything else seemed to fade away. She saw the hope in his eyes, the vulnerability beneath his confident exterior. He had put his heart on the line in front of the whole town, and that took courage. "Yes," she said simply. "I would like that very much." A cheer went up from the crowd, and Zelda felt herself blushing as people surged forward to congratulate them both on the race. Miguel appeared at her side, taking Juniper's reins and giving Zelda a knowing look that said he had seen this coming from the moment she agreed to the race. "Come on," Logan said, taking her hand. "Let me buy you breakfast. I think we have a lot to talk about." They walked through the crowd together toward the hotel restaurant, and Zelda felt something shift in her chest. It was too soon to call it love, but it was definitely the beginning of something important. Over breakfast, they talked for hours. Logan told her about his childhood in Texas, where he had grown up on a ranch much like hers. His parents were both gone now, taken by fever when he was 18, and he had spent the last 7 years working his way through the territories, taking jobs where he could find them and never staying anywhere long enough to put down roots. "I was looking for something," he admitted, stirring his coffee absently. "I just did not know what it was until I heard about you. Then everything seemed to click into place, like maybe I was supposed to end up here." Zelda understood that feeling more than she could say. "My father used to tell me that everyone has someone out there who matches them perfectly," she said quietly. "Someone who challenges them and supports them and sees them for who they really are. But he also said those people are rare, and you have to be brave enough to recognize them when they come along." "Smart man, your father," Logan said, his eyes warm as he looked at her across the table. "He was," Zelda agreed, feeling the familiar ache of loss. "He taught me everything I know about horses and ranching. When he died, everyone expected me to sell the ranch and move to town, maybe become a shopkeeper or a seamstress. But I could not do it. That ranch is my home, my legacy. It is who I am." "I would never ask you to give that up," Logan said seriously. "If we do this, if we build something together, it will be as partners. Your ranch, your dreams, they matter just as much as anything I might want." Those words settled something deep in Zelda's heart. She had spent 3 years defending her choices to well-meaning neighbors who thought she needed a man to take care of her. But Logan was not offering to take care of her. He was offering to stand beside her, and that made all the difference. They spent the rest of that day together, walking through Fort Yuma as Logan got acquainted with the town. Zelda introduced him to the shopkeepers and the blacksmith, to the doctor and the school teacher. Everyone had questions about the race and about Logan's intentions, and he fielded them all with good humor and honesty. By evening, when Zelda headed back to her ranch with Logan riding alongside her, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. They talked about everything and nothing, discovering shared opinions on horse breeding and diverging views on the best way to cook beans. The conversation flowed easily, punctuated by comfortable silences that felt intimate rather than awkward. When they reached the ranch, Miguel and Joseph were waiting by the barn. Zelda made introductions, and Logan shook both men's hands with genuine respect. "I heard about the race," Miguel said, his weathered face creasing into a smile. "A tie. I should have put money on that." "It was the best race I have ever run," Logan admitted. "Your boss is an incredible rider." "We know," Joseph said with a grin. "We have been trying to keep up with her for years." Zelda felt warmth spread through her chest at the easy camaraderie between Logan and her ranch hands. It mattered to her that they approved of him, that he treated them with respect rather than condescension. Some of the men who had tried to court her in the past had looked down on Miguel and Joseph, and she had sent those suitors packing without a second thought. "I should head back to town before it gets too dark," Logan said reluctantly. "But I would like to come back tomorrow if that is all right. Maybe help out around the ranch, get to know the place better." "I would like that," Zelda said, walking him back to where his stallion was tied. "What's his name, by the way? I realized I never asked." "Thunder," Logan said, patting the horse's neck affectionately. "Not very original, I know, but it suits him." "It does," Zelda agreed. Thunder was a magnificent animal, all sleek lines and powerful muscle. "He is a beautiful horse." "Raised him from a colt, same as you did with Juniper," Logan said. "I think that is part of why we tied today. We know our horses so well that we become one with them when we ride." Zelda nodded, pleased that he understood. That connection between horse and rider was something she cherished, something that could not be faked or bought. Logan mounted Thunder and looked down at her, his expression soft in the fading light. "Thank you for today, Zelda, for giving me a chance." "Thank you for seeing me," she replied, and she knew he understood what she meant. Not just looking at her, but truly seeing her for who she was. She watched him ride away into the twilight, and when she finally turned back toward the house, she found Miguel and Joseph both grinning at her. "What?" she demanded, but she could not keep the smile off her own face. "Nothing," Miguel said innocently. "Nothing at all." The next few weeks passed in a blur of work and courtship. Logan proved himself to be as skilled with horses as he had claimed, working alongside Zelda and her hands to break a new string of horses she had purchased from a dealer in Yuma. He was patient and kind with the animals, never resorting to harsh methods, and Zelda found herself falling for him a little more each day. They established a routine of sorts. Logan would arrive at the ranch each morning and work through the day, then stay for supper before riding back to town where he was boarding at the hotel. In the evenings, they would sit on the porch and talk while the sun set, sharing stories and dreams and gradually opening up about their fears and vulnerabilities. "I worry sometimes that I am not cut out for this," Zelda admitted one evening, gesturing at the ranch around them. "That I am just playing at being a rancher and eventually everyone will see through me." "You are not playing at anything," Logan said firmly. "Look at what you have built here, what you have maintained since your father passed. That takes real strength and skill. Anyone who questions that is a fool." "Do you ever worry about the future?" she asked. "About whether you are making the right choices?" "All the time," he admitted. "When I rode into Fort Yuma, I was taking the biggest risk of my life. I could have been wrong about you. You could have sent me packing without a second thought, but something told me it was worth the risk, and I am glad I listened." Zelda reached out and took his hand, lacing her fingers through his. They had been courting for 3 weeks now, and this was the most intimate contact they had shared. But holding his hand felt right, felt like the most natural thing in the world. "I am glad too," she said softly. Logan raised her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles gently. "Zelda Harrington, you have completely stolen my heart," he murmured. I came here intending to steal yours, but I think you are the thief in this situation." She laughed, the sound bright and happy in the evening air. "Maybe we stole each other's hearts," she suggested. "That seems fair." "That seems perfect," he agreed. As summer deepened into fall, their relationship deepened too. Logan moved out of the hotel and into the small bunkhouse on Zelda's ranch, officially taking a position as her third ranch hand. It was a practical arrangement that also allowed them to spend more time together, and the townspeople accepted it with only minimal gossip. One October afternoon, they were working together to repair a section of fence that had been damaged in a storm. The air was crisp and clear, carrying the scent of autumn leaves and distant wood smoke. Logan was hammering posts while Zelda strung wire, and they worked in comfortable silence. "I have been thinking," Logan said after a while, pausing to wipe sweat from his brow. "About us. About the future." Zelda's heart skipped a beat. "What about it?" "I want to spend my life with you," he said, setting down his hammer and turning to face her fully. "I want to wake up next to you every morning and work beside you every day and fall asleep with you in my arms every night. I want to build something lasting with you, not just this ranch but a real home, a family. If you will have me." It was not quite a proposal, not yet, but it was close. Zelda felt tears prick her eyes as she looked at this man who had ridden into her life and changed everything. "I want that too," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "More than I knew I could want anything." Logan crossed the distance between them and pulled her into his arms. For a long moment they just stood there holding each other, and then he tipped her chin up with one finger and kissed her. It was their first real kiss, and it was everything Zelda had dreamed it would be. Gentle but passionate, respectful but full of promise. When they finally broke apart, both of them were breathless. "I love you, Zelda," Logan said, his forehead resting against hers. "I think I loved you from the moment I saw you standing outside the mercantile with those flour sacks, looking at me like you could see right through me." "I love you too," she whispered. "I tried not to. I tried to tell myself it was too fast, too sudden, but I could not help it. You are everything I did not know I was looking for." They finished the fence repair in a daze of happiness, stealing kisses between hammering posts and stringing wire. By the time they headed back to the ranch house for supper, the sun was setting in a blaze of orange and gold, and Zelda felt like her heart might burst from joy. That night, Logan did not leave to return to the bunkhouse right away. Instead, they sat on the porch for hours, making plans. They would get married in the spring, they decided, when the desert was in bloom. They would expand the ranch, maybe buy the adjacent property that had recently gone up for sale. They would raise horses and children, building a legacy together. "How many children do you want?" Logan asked, his arm around her shoulders as they sat close together on the porch swing. "At least 3, Zelda said. "I always wanted siblings growing up. What about you?" "As many as you are willing to give me," he replied with a grin. "I want a house full of noise and laughter." "We will need to expand the house then," Zelda said practically, but she was smiling. "This place is barely big enough for the two of us." "We will build additions," Logan said. "Make it exactly what we need, together." Together. That word had never sounded so beautiful to Zelda before. Winter came early to Fort Yuma that year, bringing cold winds and occasional rain. But Zelda barely noticed the weather. She was too wrapped up in wedding preparations and ranch work and stolen moments with Logan. They announced their engagement officially in November, and the whole town celebrated with them. There was a party at the saloon, with music and dancing and more congratulations than Zelda could count. "Your father would be proud," Miguel told her that night, his eyes suspiciously bright. "He always wanted you to find someone who deserved you. I think Mr. Wade comes close." "Just close," Logan asked with mock offense, overhearing. No one fully deserves our Zelda, Miguel said seriously. But you come closer than most. You make her happy. That is what matters. Logan shook the older man's hand solemnly. I will spend the rest of my life trying to deserve her, he promised, and trying to keep her happy. As Christmas approached, Zelda and Logan threw themselves into preparations for both the holiday and their upcoming wedding. They chose a date in April, when the desert would be at its most beautiful, and began working on expanding the ranch house to accommodate their future family. On Christmas Eve, Logan presented Zelda with a gift. It was a bridle for Juniper, beautifully tooled leather with silver conchos, clearly custom-made and expensive. Logan, this is too much, Zelda protested, even as she ran her fingers over the intricate designs. You should not have spent so much money. Nothing is too much for you, he said seriously. Besides, I wanted Juniper to have something special. If it was not for her speed and heart during our race, we might never have gotten together. She deserves recognition. Zelda felt tears well up in her eyes again. She seemed to cry more easily these days, overwhelmed by happiness and love in ways she had never experienced before. Thank you, she whispered, standing on her toes to kiss him. I love you so much. I love you too, he murmured against her lips. More than I ever thought possible. She gave him her gift then, a new saddle she had commissioned from the town's leather worker. It was made specifically for Thunder, with extra padding for long rides and reinforced stirrups. Logan's face lit up when he saw it, and he swept her into his arms, spinning her around until she was laughing and dizzy. We are going to have a good life together, he said, setting her down but keeping his arms around her waist. I can feel it. We already have a good life, Zelda corrected. And it is only going to get better. Winter passed into spring, and suddenly the wedding was upon them. Zelda had decided to keep things relatively simple, not wanting a fussy ceremony. They would marry in the small church in Fort Yuma, followed by a reception at the ranch for their friends and neighbors. The night before the wedding, Zelda lay awake in her bed, thinking about how much her life had changed in the past year. This time last spring, she had been alone, running her ranch and telling herself she was content with her independence. And she had been content, but she had not been truly happy. Logan had brought joy and partnership and love into her life, had shown her that she could be strong and independent while still sharing her life with someone else. She thought about her father, wishing he could be here to see her get married. But she thought he would approve of Logan. They were similar men in many ways, strong and honest and respectful. Her father had always told her to hold out for someone who saw her as an equal, and that was exactly what Logan did. The morning of the wedding dawned clear and beautiful, the kind of perfect spring day that seemed designed specifically for celebrations. Zelda dressed carefully in the cream-colored dress she had bought in Yuma, simple but elegant, with lace at the collar and cuffs. She left her hair down, knowing Logan loved it that way, with just a few flowers woven through for decoration. When she arrived at the church with Miguel and Joseph, who were giving her away together since she had no family left, she found it packed with well-wishers. The entire town seemed to have turned out for the ceremony. But Zelda only had eyes for Logan, standing at the altar in a new suit, his hair freshly cut, and his face radiating pure joy. The ceremony itself passed in a blur. Zelda heard herself speaking vows, heard Logan's deep voice promising to love and cherish her for the rest of their lives. She felt him slip a simple gold band onto her finger and did the same for him. And then the Reverend was pronouncing them husband and wife, and Logan was kissing her to the cheers and applause of their community. Mrs. Wade, he murmured against her lips, and she could hear the smile in his voice. Mr. Wade, she replied, laughing. That sounds strange. You will get used to it, he promised, taking her hand and leading her down the aisle. The reception at the ranch was everything Zelda had hoped for. There was food and drink and music, dancing and laughter and celebration. Miguel made a toast that had everyone crying with its heartfelt emotion, and Joseph followed with one that had everyone laughing at his stories of Zelda's stubborn independence over the years. As the sun began to set, Logan pulled Zelda away from the crowd and into the barn, seeking a moment of privacy. They stood there in the golden light filtering through the slats, holding each other close. "Happy?" he asked softly. "Happier than I have ever been," she replied honestly. "You have given me everything I did not know I needed." "You have given me a home," Logan said, his voice rough with emotion. "A real home for the first time since I lost my parents. You have given me purpose and partnership and love. I will spend every day of the rest of my life being grateful for you." They kissed in the soft light of the barn, and Zelda felt like her heart might overflow with happiness. This man, this partnership, this life they were building together, it was everything she had ever wanted and so much more. As the evening wore on and the guests began to leave, Miguel and Joseph both hugged Zelda tightly. "Be happy," Miguel said simply. "That is all your father would have wanted." "I am," Zelda assured him. "I promise I am so happy." Finally, they were alone. Logan had moved his things from the bunkhouse into the main ranch house earlier that week, but this was their first night together as husband and wife. They climbed the stairs to the bedroom hand in hand, and when Logan closed the door behind them, Zelda felt a flutter of nerves mixed with anticipation. "We do not have to rush anything," Logan said gently, seeming to sense her nervousness. "We have the rest of our lives." But Zelda shook her head, reaching up to cup his face in her hands. "I am not nervous because I do not want this," she said quietly. "I am nervous because I want it so much, because this is real and permanent and everything I have ever dreamed of." Logan pulled her close, kissing her deeply. "You are everything I have ever dreamed of," he murmured. "And I am going to spend the rest of my life showing you just how much you mean to me." That night, they came together as husband and wife, their love expressed in gentle touches and whispered words. It was tender and passionate and perfect, a physical expression of the emotional bond they had been building for months. Afterward, they lay tangled together in the darkness, Zelda's head on Logan's chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "I love you," she whispered into the quiet. "I love you too," he replied, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "Always." The next months passed in a haze of marital bliss. Logan proved to be everything Zelda could have asked for in a husband, a true partner in every sense of the word. They worked the ranch together during the day and fell into each other's arms at night. They argued occasionally, as all couples do, but they learned to fight fair and always made up before going to sleep. In the summer, they bought the adjacent property they had talked about, expanding their ranch significantly. It meant more work, but it also meant more opportunities. They hired 2 additional hands and began breeding their own line of horses, combining Logan's Stallion Thunder with Zelda's mare Juniper to create foals that promised to be exceptional. One evening in late August, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Zelda made an announcement that changed everything. "I am pregnant," she said quietly, her hand resting on her still flat stomach. Logan went completely still beside her. Then he let out a whoop of joy that probably carried all the way to town and swept her into his arms, spinning her around just like he had on Christmas Eve. "Careful," she protested, laughing. "You will make me dizzy." "I do not care," he said, but he set her down gently anyway. His hands came to rest on her stomach, his eyes bright with unshed tears. "We are going to have a baby." "We are," Zelda confirmed, covering his hands with her own. I saw the doctor in town this morning. He says I am about 2 months along, which means the baby should come in early March. March, Logan repeated wonderingly. Just about a year after we got married. Zelda, this is the best news I have ever received. Well, second best after you agreeing to marry me. Over the next months, Logan became almost comically protective. He tried to keep Zelda from doing any ranch work, convinced she should be resting. This led to their first real fight as a married couple. I am pregnant, not made of glass, Zelda told him firmly after he tried to stop her from riding Juniper. Women have been doing ranch work while pregnant since the beginning of time. I am not going to sit around doing nothing for 7 months. I just want to keep you safe, Logan protested. You and the baby both. And I appreciate that, Zelda said, softening her tone. But you need to trust me to know my own limits. I promise I will not do anything dangerous, but I also cannot just stop living my life. This ranch is part of who I am. They compromised. Zelda continued to work the ranch but avoided the more strenuous tasks. Logan took over most of the horse breaking, and Miguel and Joseph stepped up to help with other heavy work. It was not easy for Zelda to accept the help, but she reminded herself that partnership meant allowing yourself to be supported sometimes. As her pregnancy progressed, the entire town seemed to take an interest in the coming baby. Women she barely knew offered advice on everything from morning sickness to what to name the child. The local seamstress made a beautiful layette of baby clothes. The doctor stopped by the ranch regularly to check on Zelda's health. You are doing wonderfully, he told her during a visit in late January. The baby is growing well and you are the picture of health. Just keep doing what you are doing. In early February, they began preparing the nursery. Logan built a beautiful cradle from oak, carving horses into the headboard. Zelda sewed blankets and gowns, her hands working automatically while her mind wandered to thoughts of holding her baby for the first time. What do you hope it is? Logan asked one evening as they worked together in what would be the nursery. A boy or a girl, healthy, Zelda said immediately. That is all that matters to me, but if I am being honest, I would love a boy, someone who looks like you. I was thinking the same thing, Logan admitted. A girl who looks like you with your strength and fire. I guess we will just have to be happy with whatever we get, Zelda said with a smile, placing a hand on her swollen belly. The baby kicked in response and her smile widened. Feel that someone is active today. Logan came over and placed his hand beside hers, his face lighting up when he felt the movement. Hello in there, he said softly, speaking to Zelda's stomach. This is your father. I just want you to know that we are so excited to meet you, and we already love you more than you can imagine. Tears sprang to Zelda's eyes yet again. Pregnancy had made her emotional, but she did not mind. These were happy tears, tears of gratitude for this life she was living and this family she was creating. On March 7th, a warm spring day with wildflowers beginning to bloom across the desert, Zelda's contraction started. Logan, who had been nervous about this moment for months, somehow managed to stay calm. He sent Joseph racing into town to fetch the doctor and the midwife, while he and Miguel helped Zelda into the house and got her settled. I am scared, Zelda admitted to Logan as they waited for the doctor to arrive, squeezing his hand through a contraction. I know, he said, brushing damp hair back from her forehead. But you are the strongest person I know. If anyone can do this, it is you, and I am right here with you. I am not going anywhere. The labor was long and difficult, lasting through the night and into the next day. Logan stayed by Zelda's side the entire time, letting her squeeze his hand until he thought his bones might break, wiping her face with cool cloths, whispering encouragement and love. Finally, as the sun was setting on March 8th, their son was born. The midwife placed the squalling, red-faced baby in Zelda's arms, and she felt something shift fundamentally in her heart. She had thought she understood love when she married Logan, but this was different. This was primal and overwhelming, a fierce protectiveness and tenderness unlike anything she had ever experienced. "He is perfect," she whispered, tears streaming down her face as she examined their son's tiny fingers and toes. "Logan, look at him. He is perfect." Logan, who had also been crying openly since the baby's first cry, leaned over to get a better look at their son. "He has your nose," he said wonderingly, "and your chin. But your eyes," Zelda said, noting the shape of them even though the baby's eyes were still the cloudy blue of all newborns. "And I think your ears." They decided to name him Lucas Wade, after Logan's father. Little Lucas was a healthy baby, 8 pounds with a strong set of lungs that he demonstrated frequently over the next few weeks. Zelda recovered from the birth more quickly than expected, her natural strength serving her well. The first months of parenthood were exhausting but wonderful. Lucas kept them up at all hours, needing to be fed and changed and comforted. But neither Zelda nor Logan minded. They took turns walking the floor with him at night, took turns managing the ranch work while the other stayed with the baby. Miguel and Joseph were amazing, stepping up to take on more responsibility so the new parents could focus on their son. "He is going to be a heartbreaker someday," Joseph commented one afternoon watching Lucas sleep in his cradle. "Look at those eyelashes." "He is going to be a horseman," Logan said proudly. "I cannot wait to teach him to ride." "Not until he can walk," Zelda said firmly, but she was smiling. She loved seeing Logan with their son, loved the gentleness and care he showed. He was a natural father, patient and loving and endlessly devoted. As Lucas grew from a newborn into an infant, his personality began to emerge. He was a happy baby, quick to smile and laugh, but he also had a stubborn streak that reminded both of his parents of Zelda. When he wanted something, he made it known, usually at top volume. "He definitely got your determination," Logan said one night after spending an hour trying to convince Lucas to go to sleep. "My determination," Zelda said with a laugh. "What about your stubbornness? You are the one who rode halfway across the territory to challenge a woman to a race." "Best decision I ever made," Logan said, finally managing to get Lucas to settle. He placed the sleeping baby carefully in his cradle and came to wrap his arms around Zelda. "Every day with you and Lucas, it is like a gift I did not know I deserved." "We are the ones who are lucky," Zelda said, leaning back against his chest. "You gave up your wandering ways to settle down here with me. That could not have been easy." "It was the easiest thing I have ever done," Logan assured her. "I was not really living before I met you. I was just existing, moving from place to place without purpose. You gave me a reason to stay in one spot. You gave me a home." As Lucas's first birthday approached, Zelda and Logan began discussing expanding their family. Lucas was walking now, toddling around the ranch house and getting into everything. He was fascinated by the horses, always wanting to be carried out to the barn to see them. "I think we should have another baby," Zelda said one night as they lay in bed. "I do not want Lucas to be an only child like I was, and we always said we wanted a house full of children." "I think that is a wonderful idea," Logan agreed. "Though we should probably finish the addition to the house first. We are running out of room as it is." They had started expanding the ranch house shortly after Lucas was born, adding more bedrooms and a larger kitchen. The work had been slow, done in fits and starts around ranch work and caring for their son. But now they redoubled their efforts, determined to have the space ready before any new babies arrived. In the fall, Zelda became pregnant again. This pregnancy was easier than the first, perhaps because she knew what to expect. She continued working the ranch with Logan's reluctant blessing, and Lucas kept her busy chasing after him as he explored his world with fearless abandon. "He is going to ride before he turns 2 at this rate," Miguel observed one afternoon, watching Lucas pat Thunder's nose without a trace of fear. "That boy has no sense of danger. He is his mother's son," Logan said proudly, "fearless and capable." Their daughter was born in June, a week before Lucas turned 2. The labor was shorter this time, and little Lily Wade came into the world with less fuss than her brother. She had Logan's dark hair and what would clearly be Zelda's green eyes, and she was small and delicate in a way that Lucas had never been. "She is going to have you wrapped around her little finger," Zelda predicted, watching Logan cradle their daughter with infinite gentleness. "She already does," he admitted, unable to take his eyes off Lily's tiny face. "I am completely lost." Lucas was fascinated by his new sister, wanting to touch her and help take care of her. Under supervision, he would hold her carefully, his little face serious with concentration. It melted Zelda's heart to see her son being so gentle and loving. The next few years passed quickly, filled with the chaos and joy of raising young children while running a ranch. Lucas grew into a bright, energetic boy who loved horses as much as his parents did. By the time he was 4, he was already riding Juniper with Zelda, sitting in front of her in the saddle and squealing with delight. Lily was quieter but no less determined, watching everything with sharp, observant eyes. When Lucas was 5 and Lily was 3, Zelda became pregnant for a 3rd time. This pregnancy was the hardest, leaving her exhausted and sick for the first several months. Logan took over most of her ranch duties without complaint, and Miguel and Joseph continued to be invaluable help. "I do not remember being this tired with the other 2, Zelda said one afternoon, lying on the couch while Lily napped beside her and Lucas played quietly on the floor. "You are also older now," Logan pointed out gently. "And you are chasing after 2 children while growing a 3rd. Give yourself some grace." Their second son, Levi, was born in February during a rare snowstorm that blanketed Fort Yuma in white. He was a big baby, over 9 pounds, with Logan's dark coloring and what would prove to be Zelda's temperament. From the moment he was born, he was loud and demanding and absolutely certain of what he wanted. "This one is going to give us a run for our money," the doctor predicted, handing the squalling baby to Zelda. "He has got spirit." "Good," Zelda said tiredly, cradling Levi against her chest. "He is going to need it, being the youngest of 3. He will have to stand up for himself." Lucas and Lily were excited about their new brother, though Lucas was a bit disappointed that Levi could not play yet. "When will he be fun?" he asked, looking at the sleeping baby with confusion. "Give him a few months," Logan said, ruffling his son's hair. "Before you know it, he will be following you everywhere and getting into all your things. Then you will wish he was still a baby." Logan proved to be prophetic. Levi was a handful from the start, never content to sit still, always wanting to be in the middle of everything. As soon as he could crawl, he was getting into trouble, and walking only made it worse. He was fearless like his mother and stubborn like his father, a combination that led to more than one near disaster. By the time Lucas was 8, Lily was 6, and Levi was 3, the ranch had grown significantly. The horse breeding program that Zelda and Logan had started was now well known throughout the territory, and people came from as far as Tucson to buy their horses. They had expanded their herd and their property, buying 2 more adjacent parcels of land. The ranch house had been expanded twice more and now sprawled comfortably across the desert landscape. It was a real home, filled with the sounds of children laughing and horses neighing and life being lived to the fullest. Zelda stood on the porch one evening, watching Logan teach Lucas and Lily how to rope while Levi helped, by trying to catch his siblings instead of the practice post, and felt overwhelming gratitude for her life. "Happy?" Miguel asked, coming to stand beside her. He was in his late 60s now, his hair completely white, but he still worked the ranch with the same dedication he had shown Zelda's father. "More than I can say," Zelda replied. "Sometimes I think about that day Logan rode into town and challenged me to that race, and I cannot believe how much has changed. How much I have changed." "You have not changed so much," Miguel said with a smile. "You are still the same strong, determined woman you always were. You just have someone to share your strength with now, and 3 little ones to pass it on to." "4," Zelda said, her hand coming to rest on her stomach almost unconsciously. "4 little ones." Miguel's eyes widened. "You are pregnant again." "I just found out this morning," Zelda confirmed. "I have not told Logan yet. I was waiting for the right moment." "He will be thrilled," Miguel predicted. "That man loves being a father almost as much as he loves you." That night, after the children were in bed and she and Logan had retreated to their own room, Zelda broke the news. Logan's reaction was everything she had hoped for. He pulled her into his arms and held her tight, his face buried in her hair. "4 children," he said wonderingly. "We are going to have 4 children. Zelda, how did I get so lucky?" "We both got lucky," she corrected. "The day we raced and tied, that was the universe telling us we were meant to be partners in everything." "I love you," Logan said, pulling back to look at her face. Even after nearly 9 years of marriage, his eyes still held the same warmth and wonder they had that first day. "I love you so much it sometimes scares me. You and our children, you are my entire world. And you are ours," Zelda said, reaching up to cup his face. "I would not want to be anywhere else or with anyone else. This life we have built, it is everything I ever wanted and more than I knew I could have." Their 4th child, another daughter they named Laura, was born the following October during harvest time. She was a surprise in many ways, smaller than her siblings had been but fierce and determined from the start. Where Lily was cautious and observant, Laura was bold and adventurous, ready to take on the world before she could even walk properly. "She is going to be trouble," Joseph predicted, watching 6-month-old Laura try to climb out of her cradle. "I can already tell." "She is going to be amazing," Zelda corrected, scooping up her daughter and settling her on her hip. Laura immediately reached for Zelda's braid, tugging on it with chubby fists. Just like all of them. The years continued to pass, each one bringing new challenges and new joys. Lucas grew into a tall, capable young man who could outride most adults by the time he was 12. Lily developed a gift for working with difficult horses, her patience and gentle persistence working wonders. Levy proved to have a head for business, keeping track of the ranch finances with surprising skill for one so young. And Laura, true to early predictions, was fearless and wild, always pushing boundaries and testing limits. Through it all, Zelda and Logan's partnership only grew stronger. They still worked the ranch together, still made all major decisions as a team. They argued occasionally, particularly when Logan was being overprotective or Zelda was being too stubborn. But they always came back to the foundation of love and respect they had built their marriage on. One evening when Lucas was 15, Lily was 13, Levy was 10, and Laura was 7, the whole family gathered on the expanded porch to watch the sunset. It had become a tradition over the years, this moment of togetherness at the end of each day. The children were talking and laughing, recounting stories from their day, while Logan and Zelda sat close together on the swing, his arm around her shoulders. "You ever regret it?" Zelda asked quietly, her voice pitched so only Logan could hear. "Giving up your wandering ways to settle down here?" Logan looked at her in surprise. Not for a single moment, he said firmly. Zelda, before I met you, I was lost. I did not even know it at the time, but I was just drifting through life without purpose or direction. You gave me everything that matters. A home, a family, a reason to wake up excited every morning. How could I possibly regret that? I just want to make sure you are happy, Zelda said. That you do not feel trapped or limited. I am happier than I ever imagined I could be, Logan assured her, pressing a kiss to her temple. Every single day I look at you and our children and this life we have built, and I feel grateful beyond words. You did not trap me, Zelda. You set me free. You helped me become the man I was meant to be. Tears pricked Zelda's eyes, but they were happy tears. I love you, she said simply. Just as much now as I did on our wedding day. More even. I love you too, Logan replied, and I will love you for the rest of my days and beyond. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple, Zelda looked at her family gathered around her and felt a deep sense of contentment. This was what happiness looked like. Not a life without challenges or hardships, but a life filled with love and support and partnership. A life where you faced everything together and came out stronger for it. Lucas caught her looking and smiled. "What are you thinking about, Ma?" he asked. "Just how lucky I am," Zelda replied honestly. "How lucky we all are. We are pretty lucky," Lily agreed, leaning against her father's other side. "Though I still think Laura should have to do more chores." "I do chores," Laura protested immediately. "I feed the chickens." "After we remind you 10 times, Levy pointed out, but he was grinning. The family dissolved into good-natured bickering about chore assignments, and Zelda and Logan exchanged amused glances. This was their life, noisy and chaotic and absolutely perfect. The next few years brought more changes. Lucas began courting a girl from town, a sweet young woman named Emma who worked in her father's general store. Lily announced her intention to become a horse trainer professionally, not just help on the family ranch. Levy started talking about going to university back east to study business. And Laura, at 10 years old, was already making noises about wanting to compete in horse races like her mother had. "You have to wait until you are older," Zelda told her firmly when Laura brought up the idea for the dozenth time. "Racing is dangerous, and you need more experience." "But you were racing at my age," Laura argued. "Grandpa taught you young." "That was different," Zelda said, though Laura had a point. "And just because I did something does not mean it is the right choice for you." "That is not fair," Laura grumbled, but she dropped the subject for the moment. That evening, Zelda talked to Logan about it while they got ready for bed. "She is so much like I was at that age," she said, brushing out her hair. "Stubborn and fearless and absolutely certain she knows best." "Wonder where she gets that from," Logan said with a teasing smile. "But seriously, what do you think? Should we let her race?" "Not yet," Zelda said firmly. "She is too young and she does not have enough control yet. In a few years maybe, but not now." "We will tell her together," Logan said. "Present a united front, though I am sure she will still argue." "Of course she will," Zelda said with a laugh. "She is my daughter." When Lucas turned 18, he asked Emma to marry him, and she said yes. The whole family was thrilled, and Zelda threw herself into helping plan the wedding. It was strange to think that her firstborn was old enough to get married, but Lucas was mature and responsible, and Emma was a lovely young woman. The wedding took place in the spring, almost exactly 20 years after Zelda and Logan's own wedding. It was a beautiful ceremony, and Zelda cried through the entire thing, overwhelmed by emotion as she watched her son pledge his life to another person. "They are going to be happy," Logan said, squeezing her hand. "Just like us." "I know," Zelda said, wiping her eyes. "But he is still my baby, no matter how grown up he is." Lucas and Emma moved into a small house in town, and Lucas continued to work the family ranch while Emma ran the general store with her father. Within a year, they announced they were expecting their first child, and Zelda was going to be a grandmother. "I am not old enough to be a grandmother," she protested to Logan, though she was secretly thrilled. "You are 41 years old," Logan pointed out with amusement. "That is plenty old enough. Besides, you are going to be an amazing grandmother, just like you are an amazing mother." Lucas and Emma's son was born in the fall, a healthy baby boy they named Thomas. Zelda held her grandson for the first time and felt her heart expand in ways she had not thought possible. She had thought she understood love when her own children were born, but this was different. This was the continuation of her legacy, proof that the family she and Logan had built would go on. "He has your eyes," Logan observed, looking at baby Thomas over Zelda's shoulder. "The same green as yours and Lily's." "He is perfect," Zelda breathed, unable to look away from the tiny face. "Absolutely perfect." As the years continued to pass, the family continued to grow and change. Lily met a traveling horse trader named Samuel and fell hard for him. After a whirlwind courtship, they married and started their own horse training business, working closely with the family ranch. Levi did go to university back east, but he returned after 3 years with a degree in business management and new ideas for expanding the ranch's operations. And Laura, when she finally turned 16, began racing competitively just as she had always dreamed, winning more often than not and making a name for herself throughout the territory. Through all of these changes, Zelda and Logan remained the steady center of their family. They continued to work the ranch together, though they gradually turned over more responsibility to their children and hired hands. They spent more time just enjoying each other's company, taking long rides through the desert they both loved, sitting on the porch in the evenings and talking about everything and nothing. "You remember the day we raced?" Zelda asked one evening when she was 45 and Logan was 47. They were sitting on the porch swing, watching the sunset as they had done thousands of times before. "I remember every detail," Logan said. "The way you looked standing outside the mercantile with those flour sacks, the way you lifted your chin when I challenged you. The race itself, feeling like we were flying. The moment we crossed the finish line together and I realized I had met my match in every way. I tried so hard not to fall for you," Zelda admitted. "I told myself it was too fast, that I did not know you well enough, but my heart knew better." "My heart knew from the moment I heard about you," Logan said. "Before I even saw you, I knew you were special. And then I met you, and you exceeded every expectation I had. You have spent the last 27 years continuing to exceed my expectations. Every single day, you amaze me." "We have had a good life," Zelda said softly. "A really good life. The best life," Logan corrected. "And it is not over yet. We still have years ahead of us, years to watch our grandchildren grow up and maybe even meet great-grandchildren, years to keep building what we started." He was right, of course. Over the next decade, their family continued to expand. Lucas and Emma had 3 more children. Lily and Samuel had twins, a boy and a girl. Levi married a woman he met in university and had 2 daughters. And Laura, after years of swearing she would never settle down, met a fellow horse racer who matched her spirit and determination. They married when Laura was 26, and within 2 years they had a son. Zelda and Logan's ranch became the heart of a sprawling family empire. Sunday dinners brought everyone together, the house filled with children and grandchildren and the constant noise of a large, loving family. Zelda looked around the table at these gatherings and felt overwhelming gratitude for everything she had been given. "To think it all started with a race," she said to Logan one Sunday, watching their grandchildren play in the yard while the adults cleaned up after dinner. If we had not tied that day, none of this would exist. We would have found our way to each other somehow, Logan said confidently. Some things are just meant to be. You and me, we were meant to be. When Zelda turned 55 and Logan 57, they decided it was time to officially retire from running the ranch. They turned over daily operations to Lucas and Levy, who had been essentially managing things for years anyway. It felt strange at first, not being in charge but also freeing. They had more time for each other, more time to do things they had put off for years. They traveled, visiting places they had always wanted to see. They spent long hours just being together, rediscovering each other in the quiet spaces their busy life had not allowed before. And they continued to be the heart of their family, the matriarch and patriarch that everyone turned to for advice and support. On their 30th wedding anniversary, the entire family threw them a huge party. The ranch was decorated with flowers and ribbons, and there was enough food to feed half of Fort Yuma. Lucas stood up to make a speech, his voice thick with emotion. "Ma, Pa," he said, looking at his parents, "you have given us so much. Not just this ranch or material things, but an example of what love looks like. You have shown us that marriage is a partnership, that it takes work and commitment, but the rewards are immeasurable. You have shown us how to be strong and independent while still being part of something bigger. Everything good in my life, I owe to you both." Each of their other children made similar speeches, and by the end, Zelda and Logan were both crying openly. Their grandchildren performed a song they had learned specially for the occasion. Friends and neighbors from Fort Yuma came by to offer congratulations and share stories of how Zelda and Logan had touched their lives over the years. As the party wound down and the sun began to set, Zelda and Logan slipped away from the crowd, riding out to the cottonwood tree by the river bend where they had turned around during their famous race all those years ago. 30 years, Zelda said wonderingly, sitting beside Logan beneath the tree's spreading branches. "It feels like both forever and no time at all." "The best 30 years of my life," Logan said, taking her hand. Their fingers laced together automatically, a gesture they had made thousands of times over the decades. "I would not change a single moment, not even the hard parts," Zelda asked. "There were hard parts." "Especially not the hard parts," Logan said seriously. "Those were the moments that proved what we had was real and lasting. Anyone can be together when things are easy. It is the hard times that show what you are made of, and we made it through everything together." "Together," Zelda echoed, leaning her head on his shoulder. "That has always been our strength. We are better together than we ever could have been apart." They sat there in comfortable silence as the stars began to appear in the darkening sky. The river burbled softly in the background, and somewhere in the distance, they could hear the sounds of the party continuing without them. But here, in this quiet space, it was just the two of them, just as it had been that day they raced and tied and started this incredible journey together. The years continued to pass, bringing both joy and sorrow. Miguel passed away peacefully in his sleep when he was 78, and the whole family mourned him as the adopted grandfather he had become. Joseph retired to live with his daughter in Tucson, though he visited often. New ranch hands were hired and trained. The horse breeding program continued to thrive under Lily's expert management. Zelda and Logan grew older together, their hair turning silver, their faces gaining more lines. But their love never dimmed. If anything, it grew stronger, deepened by time and shared experiences. They held hands wherever they went, still stole kisses when they thought no one was looking, still made each other laugh with private jokes and shared memories. When Zelda turned 65, Logan surprised her with a special gift. He had commissioned a painting of the two of them racing on that fateful day, the artist working from descriptions and old photographs. In the painting, Zelda and Logan were captured mid-race, leaning forward in their saddles, their horses' legs blurred with motion, their faces alight with joy and competition and the first sparks of love. "This is beautiful," Zelda breathed, staring at the painting. "Logan, this is too much." "Nothing is too much for you," he said, echoing words he had spoken so many times over the years. "I wanted to capture that moment, the moment everything changed, the moment I saw you and knew somehow that my wandering days were over." They hung the painting in the main room of the ranch house, where everyone could see it. It became a family treasure, a reminder of where everything had started. On Logan's 70th birthday, the family gathered again for another celebration. He was still healthy and active, still riding every day and helping out around the ranch despite being officially retired. But there was a fragility to him now that had not been there before, a reminder that time was precious and not to be wasted. "Thank you," he said to the assembled family as they finished cake and presents. "Thank you all for being here, for being part of this incredible life Zelda and I have built. Every single one of you is a gift, and I am grateful every day that I get to be your father and grandfather." That night, alone in their room, Logan pulled Zelda close and held her tight. "I love you," he whispered into her hair. "I need you to know that to really know it. You made my life worth living. Before you, I was just marking time. You gave me purpose and joy and a reason to get up every morning." "I love you too," Zelda said, her arms around his waist. "You saved me in ways you probably do not even realize. I was so alone before you came, even if I did not fully recognize it. You showed me that I could be strong and independent while still sharing my life with someone. You were my partner in everything, and I would not have wanted it any other way." They stood there holding each other for a long time, two people who had spent over 40 years together and still found comfort and love in each other's arms. The next few years were peaceful ones. They spent their days surrounded by family, watching their grandchildren grow up and begin families of their own. They took quiet rides through the desert, just the two of them, remembering all the years that had brought them to this point. They sat on the porch every evening, watching the sunset and talking about anything and everything, just as they always had. When Logan was 74, he began to slow down more noticeably. His joints ached from years of hard work, and he tired more easily. But his mind stayed sharp, and his love for Zelda never wavered. If anything, he seemed determined to make every moment count, to savor every day they had together. "No regrets," he told Zelda one evening as they sat together, his head resting against hers. "Not a single one. This life with you, it has been everything I could have asked for and more." "No regrets," Zelda agreed, though her heart ached with the knowledge that their time together was growing shorter. But she refused to let grief overshadow the joy. They had been blessed with decades together, with children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, with a love that had sustained them through everything life threw at them. Logan passed away peacefully in his sleep just after his 75th birthday, with Zelda lying beside him as she had for 46 years. When she woke that morning and found him gone, she felt like part of her heart had been torn away. But even in her grief, she felt grateful. Grateful for every day they had shared, every moment of joy and love and partnership. The funeral was attended by what seemed like the entire territory. Logan had touched so many lives over the years, and everyone wanted to pay their respects. Their children and grandchildren surrounded Zelda, offering support and love, reminding her that Logan's legacy lived on in all of them. After the funeral, Zelda stood at the cottonwood tree by the river bend, looking out over the land she and Logan had built their life on. She thought about that day they had raced, thought about how one moment of bold decision had led to this incredible lifetime. "Thank you," she whispered to the wind, knowing somehow that Logan could hear her wherever he was. "Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for every single day we had together." Zelda lived for another 8 years after Logan's death, surrounded by the family they had created together. She took comfort in watching her grandchildren and great-grandchildren grow, seeing pieces of Logan in all of them. She continued to ride when she could, though not as fast or as far as she once had. And every evening, she sat on the porch and watched the sunset, feeling Logan's presence beside her even though he was gone. When Zelda passed away at the age of 83, she went peacefully in her sleep, a smile on her face. Her children found her the next morning and knew immediately that she had gone to be with Logan, that they were together again as they were always meant to be. The family buried her beside Logan beneath the cottonwood tree by the river bend, the place where their race had turned around all those years ago. At the funeral, Lucas read a letter his mother had written to be opened after her death. "My beloved family," the letter began. "If you are reading this, then I have gone to be with Logan, and I want you to know that I go without fear or sadness. I have lived a full, beautiful life, blessed beyond measure with love and family. Logan and I built something lasting together, something that will continue long after we are both gone. You are our legacy, every single one of you, and I am so proud of who you have become. Remember that love is worth fighting for, worth racing for, worth every risk and challenge." Logan rode into town to steal my heart, but the truth is, we gave our hearts to each other freely. And that gift sustained us through 46 years of marriage and continues to sustain me even now, years after his death. Love never truly dies. It lives on in the people we leave behind, in the memories we create, in the family we build. I love you all and I will love you forever. Live boldly, love fiercely, and never be afraid to race for what matters most. There was not a dry eye in the crowd by the time Lucas finished reading. The family stood together at their parents' grave, united in love and grief and gratitude for the incredible legacy Zelda and Logan had left behind. The ranch continued to thrive for generations, passed down from parent to child, always kept in the family as Zelda and Logan had wanted. The painting of them racing hung in the main house for over 100 years, a reminder to every new generation of where their story began. The tale of the cowboy who rode into Fort Yuma to steal a woman's heart, only to have her challenge him to race for it, became family legend, told and retold at gatherings and celebrations. And through it all, the message remained the same, that true love is a partnership of equals, that the best relationships are built on mutual respect and admiration, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is open your heart to someone and trust that they will cherish it as you deserve. Logan and Zelda's love story became the foundation that all future generations built their own relationships on, a shining example of what was possible when two people chose each other every single day for a lifetime. Their story did not end with their deaths. It lived on in every child who learned to ride on that ranch, in every couple who chose partnership over dominance, in every family gathering that celebrated love and togetherness. The cowboy had ridden into town to steal her heart, but in the end, they had given their hearts to each other freely, completely, and forever. And that made all the difference.